Furthermore, we have received complaints that this courtyard was built illegally. Do you understand? You're already lucky that you're not getting fined. We're just negotiating to have you move away, voluntarily. What makes you think there will be any compensation? The middle-aged man had a smile on his face, but his words immediately turned the rest, and Fiona's mood foul. This demolition had no compensation? Impossible. This is our Taylor family's old mansion. It's been left uninhabited for many years. My grandfather was the one that told us to stay here. At any rate, there should be a demolition, compensation. How is this an illegal building? We've been staying here for so many years. Selina was furious. Her original plan was to come home for a bath, but she was in no mood for that, for the time being. The other party was just being unreasonable. I think the money is there, but you're just planning to keep it for yourself, right? Do you know that we're from the Taylor family? You should really investigate carefully before coming. You want to demolish this place without paying the compensation? Dream on. Fiona's expression changed immediately. The smile was long gone from her face. We're just here to notify you. If you don't appreciate the gesture, we can have the demolition crew come over with just a phone call at any moment. Since you claim that it's not illegal, do you have the premise permit? The old man asked with a laugh. Fiona's expression darkened. This is not commercial housing. It's our Taylor family's homestead. How do you expect us to get a permit? Regardless, you should be paying some form of compensation, otherwise you're not allowed to demolish it. Illegal or not, it's for us to decide, not you. You can't even show us the premise permit then. It'll be demolished today itself. That middle-aged man chuckled, then made a phone call. After he finished with the call, he laughed. Of course, I know that you're from the Taylor family. However, the one in charge of this project is young Master Clark, Ken Clark. Their group is the one in charge of building this retirement home. Can you afford to offend them? I was wondering who it is. So it's that trash. Jack finally understood. Last time, he had given him a beating. He probably was still feeling bitter over that incident. However, Jack did not expect him to use such tactics to seek revenge on them. Him? Fiona's face turned pale. The current Taylor family could not afford to offend the Clark family. Moreover, they were kicked out of the Taylor family. The old master might not even bother helping them, and could even blame them for offending the untouchables. She turned around, then rushed at Jack, shoving him. It's all your fault. If not for you, this wouldn't happen. It's because you hit him last time. Now they're here for revenge, and we're getting kicked out soon. Where are we going to stay? Mother, don't worry. Nobody will dare kick us out. Jack smiled coldly, then looked at Selina, who was covered in mud. He said lovingly, Honey, you go wash up and change your clothes. I'll wait, here for them. Oh, okay. For some reason, Jack's confident gaze helped calm her heart down. She grabbed a set of clothes and then went to wash up. Upon hearing that Selina was going to shower, the few workers swallowed hard. They wondered how alluring the scene would be when a beauty like that showered. Unfortunately, they had no chance to witness that and could only imagine it in their heads. The men grew all the more jealous of Jack. This guy sure is lucky to have found such a beautiful woman that bore him a child. That's a dream come true for countless men out there. After Selina was done with her shower and changed, she came back to the courtyard. Right outside were 3 excavators, a group of people, and young Master Clark. I heard there are some unruly people here that refuse to listen to the management. Ken sneered as he walked slowly into the courtyard with a few people behind him. Oh my, young Master Clark, why are you here? It's been a long time. Upon seeing Ken with his lackeys, Fiona immediately welcomed them cheerfully. Auntie, it's not that long. We've just met 2 days ago. Ken chuckled, then pointed at his teeth. Look, I'm whistling as I speak. It's all because of your precious son-in-law. Fiona's expression immediately turned awkward. She forced a smile and replied, "Watch what you're saying. This man is not my son-in-law. We will only find out after the old man's 70th birthday in about 20 more days." Ken was taken aback. His face was filled with surprise. "Auntie, what do you mean by that? They're already legally married, and the kid is a few years old. Why do we need to wait for about 20 more days to find out?" Yes. Fiona immediately nodded. "It's like this. Let's not mention the matters back then. It's like this. After Jack came back, he got into a fight with young Master Ivan and beat him up. After that, that's why, by then, he would need to cough up $30 million, or he will be kicked out of our Taylor family. Of course, if he doesn't send me the $10 million worth of betrothal gifts, Selina's father and I will never recognize his identity," Fiona explained away. After she was done, she immediately dragged Ken aside and whispered, "Young Master Clark, please rest assured. He won't be able to take out that much money when the time comes. As long as he can't produce the money, then our Selina will regain her freedom. Once she regains her freedom, wouldn't that mean you'll have a chance?" Hearing that, Ken's heart rejoiced. He turned to look at Selina, who was standing there, and was surprised once more. At that moment, Selina had just finished her shower and have yet to dry her hair. Standing there, she looked all the more alluring. That pair of snow-white long legs were especially eye-catching under the sunlight. Considering that he had over 20 more days to go, his expression darkened and said, "Auntie, that's a long time to wait. I don't feel like waiting any longer. Isn't it just $10 million of betrothal gifts? As long as you can think of a way to have Selina marry me, even $100 million in betrothal gifts is not an issue." $100 million. Hearing that, Fiona's heart was swayed in an instant. Although Jack had found a good job, who knew if that job offer was just Miss Tanya playing with him? Moreover, if Jack worked like that, who knew how long his job would last? What if he got fired one day? He was quite hot-headed after all. Young Master Clark, on the other hand, looked dashing and was courteous. If her daughter marries him, then she would definitely be living comfortably in the future. The betrothal gifts can be negotiated. It's just that I've promised Jack and I can't just change as I like to. Fiona looked at Kylie, who was playing nearby, feeling a little uncomfortable. After all, if Jack's work was a real deal, then he would get quite a lot in 1 year. Most importantly, Kylie was still her granddaughter. It was naturally better for her to live with her biological father. At least she would not have to suffer in the future. That was why she decided to give Jack another chance. What if he really pulled through? "Auntie, don't you worry. I have my ways. You just ask Selina to come over and I'll have a private chat with her. If she agrees to divorce Jack, then I can choose to not demolish your house and will definitely treat her well. If she disagrees, I'll threaten her with the demolition of your house. I believe that a kind-hearted girl like her would surely agree," Ken told Fiona after some thoughts. "Sure. However, if my daughter agrees, that would be great too." Fiona gave it some thought, then finally approached Selina. "Dear, young Master Clark said that. He would like to discuss the matter of this house with you. Go ahead and negotiate with him. This house must not be demolished. If it's demolished, where would our entire family find a place to stay all of a sudden?" Selina kept silent for a moment, then nodded and walked over. "This house is our family's old mansion. Although it's not a registered property, it's considered a property of our Taylor family. You can't just demolish it like that." Selina looked at young Master Clark in front of her as she stated coldly, "Before Jack came back, young Master Clark would come over to court her all the time. There were a few times that he suggested for her to apply for a death certificate to divorce Jack, then marry him. Although she felt annoyed by him, He was not that bad in general. At least, the impression Selina had of him was much better than that Michael. She never thought that he would resort to such tactics. This caused her frustrations toward young Master Clark to reach a new height. Hey, isn't this for the city's appearance? For the good of Eastfield? Clark took out a cigarette and lit it. After inhaling deeply, he finally stated, "Selina, you know that I'm sincerely in love with you. More so than those other gentlemen out there. As long as you're willing to divorce that trash and marry me, when the time comes, I'll guarantee you a luxurious life. Of course, it doesn't matter if they demolish this house or not. Whether to build the retirement house here or not will depend on your attitude. If you agree to marry me, I'll call them off immediately." Ken smiled coldly as he stated, "Young Master Clark, you're really cunning. They've always said that money makes the world go round. Today I finally learned that it's true." Selina laughed coldly. "Your behavior is only going to make me think the worst of you. It can't be helped. Your opinion of me is no longer of any importance. I only want you to be my woman. I want you to know that I'm much better than that delivery boy." Ken shrugged, his expression thoughtful. "Consider carefully. If you don't agree, I will start demolishing the house right now." "You won't dare." Selina was furious, but she looked at the people that he brought along and felt helpless. "You can't demolish the house, and I will never marry you." "You'll see if I dare. In Eastfield, there are not a lot of things that I'm scared of." Ken laughed out loudly. His eyes had a vicious look in them. "Why don't you let them try demolishing then?" At that moment, Jack sneered and walked up to them unexpectedly. This Ken was really naive to think that Jack would not hear him if he pulled Fiona and Selina to the side to talk privately. Jack's hearing had long exceeded that of an ordinary person. He had clearly heard all their previous conversations. He just wanted to find out what was Selina and Fiona's attitude toward this matter. "Go ahead with the demolition. Someone doesn't know his place." Ken gave the order with a wave of his hand. Meanwhile, at the Clark family villa, Clark family's expert Dan Jameson did not see young Master Clark when he returned. He could not help but frown. "Where's young Master Clark? Where did he go?" Dan thought about it, then asked one of the bodyguards. "He took a group of people with him and left. I saw that he was rather happy, saying something about definitely getting his hands on that Selina woman." The guard answered after some thought, "It can't be." Hearing that, Dan breathed in deeply. "This young Master Clark. Didn't I just warn him last time not to go look for trouble with that Jack White? Why won't he listen?" Ever since he lost the arm wrestling with Jack, Dan knew deep down in his heart how terrifying Jack was. With the ability that Jack had, even within the military, he would not be a regular soldier. He would at least be of a decent rank. A person like that, their Clark family would be better off steering clear from them. At first, he thought Ken would listen to him. Who would have thought that Ken would go looking for Selina again? "Commander Jameson, you're being too careful. This time, young Master Clark has everything under control. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone. He said that he would only take strong measures after the courteous one fails." That guard chuckled, then added, "If not for young Master Clark not bringing me along, I would have loved to go have a look. I've heard that. Selina Taylor was very pretty. Tsk, tsk. I wonder what her expression would be when she's forced to accept our young master's offer." "Forced to accept?" Dan's brows twitched. What does he mean by taking strong measures after the courteous one fails? Could it be the same old tactic of paying a certain amount to Fiona to help persuade them? With Selina's personality, it's impossible for her to agree to that. Furthermore, now that her husband's back, the chances of that happening is even lower. No. This time, our young master used his connections and planned to demolish Selina's house, and use that to threaten them. Of course, if that Jack dares to take action, our young master has no fear, because there's an expert that came back from the military that went along with, "Young master, he's an officer. Moreover, he's not just a major, but a marshal." The bodyguard smiled. "You should know how powerful those who made it as officers out of so many people, especially when it's a marshal." When Dan heard those words, he took in a deep breath as he was shocked to the core. He knew that those that could become an officer were experts on the battlefield. They were all-powerful figures. Moreover, this time round, it was said that those who had the status of a major would have at least 1,000 men under them and could even go up to a few thousand men. As for the marshal, he would have a few majors under them. From that, one could tell how much higher their status was. He had even got wind that within those that retired from the battlefield, the majors were all awarded $1 billion. It was considered an acknowledgement for what they have done over the years. As for the marshals, they were returning with a few $1 billion. When placed in any town, they would be placed among the extremely rich figures. Never did he expect young Master Clark to be connected with a person like that and have the other party be willing to help him out. If there's an expert like that with him, then we won't have much to fear. After considering it carefully, the burden in Dan's heart lifted. Those that managed to become a marshal would have achieved great service in the military. Their capability was guaranteed. At the very least, he was not confident to face them in a fight. That's right. Just relax. This time, our young master will surely succeed. That bodyguard said cheerfully, "For all we know, he might have already succeeded. Our young master is just waiting to carry the beauty home." "Demolish it!" Ken gave the order, planning to let those men take action. What's going on? Did Jack overhear their conversation? Why did he go over to meddle? Seeing the outcome, Fiona was truly shocked. At first, she thought her own daughter was very filial and would most likely agree to their request. But, "I'll see who dares." Jack took a few steps forward and stood in front of the gate. At that moment, although he looked dirty in clothes that were stained with muddy water, the aura he gave off while standing there gave people quite the scare. "Jack White, you're quite brazen." Ken laughed, then said to a middle-aged nearby, "Brother, Howard, I'll have to depend on you to help me teach this brat a lesson." Jack had noticed long ago. Although that guy only stood there all the while without saying anything, he was no ordinary person. He had a certain quality about him that only a soldier would have. His posture was perfectly straight, a trait that regular people did not have. The opponent looked at Jack, then frowned. He could feel that Jack had a similar quality about him that was only present in those that returned from the battlefield. Although that was something others could not detect, those that stepped over countless bodies and survived would definitely pick up on it. "You came back from the battlefield as well?" The man of the Howard family approached Jack and stopped in front of him. He did not take action immediately, but instead asked a question. "Yes." Jack nodded. "I'm curious. A person like you is aiding the evil. Why would you help this kind of person? If this is the battlefield, I could kill you right away." "You kill me? I'm afraid you don't have the authority to." Dennis Howard chuckled, then said, "Come, let's have a private conversation inside. There's no need to complicate this matter. After all, you're a veteran as well. I don't wish to make it difficult for you." Hearing that, Jack laughed. "Interesting. Then let's talk inside." Dennis looked at Ken, then said, "I'll talk with him inside. Without my orders, no one else is allowed to take any actions." "It can't be." "Brother Howard, you can just cripple him. Give him a good round of beating and have him get out of our sights. Worst comes to worst, you can just kill him. Why do you need to negotiate with him? He's not qualified." Ken's mouth was wide open as he doubted his own hearing. Although Jack was a veteran, well, what made him qualified to negotiate with a marshal? Most likely, if Jack found out about his identity, he might just kneel down in terror. Both of them entered the house, then closed the door behind. After Dennis closed the door, he finally lifted his head slightly and placed his hands behind him, showing the demeanor of an authoritative figure. To be frank, based on my own personality, I wouldn't have helped that, Ken, but I have my own reasons. Having said that, he stated bluntly, "I'm a marshal. Having to do this, I feel helpless as well. Please just move. I'll pass you the money in secret as compensation. This way, it'll be good for all parties. Please do this favor for me." In that case, you also know that tearing down our house without providing compensation is wrong, right? You're also feeling uncomfortable about this and want to make up for us, right? Facing the marshal, Jack did not have the slightest fear or nervousness. Instead, he smiled, indifferently. If this is on the battlefield, and we are still in the army, you would not have such an attitude when you see a fellow soldier. Dennis's face sank. "I don't want to be calculative. 50 million and your entire family needs to move away. However, you cannot tell Ken Clark. That's weird. You are a good and a reputable soldier. Yet, you are afraid of Ken? I really don't understand what you are afraid of." Jack frowned in confusion. "I'm not afraid. Years ago, before I became a soldier, our family was very poor. Once my sister and I were about to starve to our deaths. He passed by and gave us a few $1,000. Although the money was nothing to him, but to me, it meant a lot as it saved our lives. Apart from this, there's another reason, and it's because I like Ken's sister." Dennis smiled bitterly, and after he finished speaking, he said to Jack, "Since I promised him that I would help him with this favor, I can only give you money privately, and you can leave with the others. This way, I won't offend him, and I also technically not forcing you to demolish your house. Consider this as me buying peace of my mind." "You're paying for your peace of mind." Jack chuckled and then said, "However, I don't want to trouble my wife while I'm searching for a place to stay." Seeing that Jack still refused to listen to him after he had made such a big offer and stated his intentions so clearly, Dennis's face immediately darkened. "Young man, don't be so overboard. I'm only speaking to you because we have once killed enemies together on the battlefield, and you're a man. You have to know that you don't even have the qualifications to talk to me." "Are you sure?" Jack laughed after he heard this. "I'm telling you this. I really don't care about marshals like you. Seems like we will have to settle this by force. Don't blame me for being merciless. Let me ask you again, do you agree or not? If you don't agree, we'll demolish by force. I can even kill or destroy you." Dennis clenched his fist, and his aura was terrifying. He wanted to resolve this matter in a civilized manner, but he did not expect that this young man would not appreciate it. "You?" Jack smiled coldly. "Consider yourself lucky that I didn't make you kneel before me when you meet me." "I kneel before you? Humph. Do you think that you're the god of war?" "I would not even kneel down to the king of war in my entire life, unless I meet the god of war. Only he is worthy of my respect to kneel before him. Young man, do you qualify?" Dennis was so angry that he almost exploded. He took a step forward, lunged, and his fists flew straight to Jack's face. Jack gently moved to the side to avoid the opponent's attack. "What?" The opponent did not expect Jack to react so quickly, and surprise flashed through his eyes. The next second, he attacked continuously with both his fists. The speed of the fists was so terrifying it sounded as if the wind was howling. Jack evaded one after another. At a certain moment, Jack finally fought back. He kicked, and it happened to hit the opponent's ankle. The powerful force had caused Dennis to fall down, on the floor with one knee. Crack! A thin crack appeared on the thick limestone on the ground. Shock could be seen in Dennis's eyes. He could not imagine that the opponent was so fast, to be able to dodge his attack every time. The opponent was also very strong. His body shook and was about to stand up. However, Jack placed a hand on his shoulder to press him down. With some force, his other leg was also forced to kneel as he grumbled. He gritted his teeth, tried to stand up, just to find out that Jack's power was as terrifying as a big mountain. He couldn't stand up with Jack, pressing down on him. Dennis glanced at Jack, but all he saw was a slight smile on Jack's face. Jack seemed extremely relaxed, as if he was not using much power. If you were an enemy on the battlefield, you would already have died thousands of times. Jack spoke lightly before releasing Dennis. Dennis knelt on the floor in a daze with his eyes filled with trance in a daze. Strong. He was extremely strong. Who was this man in front of him, and how could he be so powerful? He did not doubt what Jack said previously. If Jack wanted to kill him, he would have died much earlier. Who are you? Dennis frowned and raised his head slowly with suspicion. Even the King of War cannot be so powerful. It won't be so easy to deal with me. At this point, Dennis paused and said, "However, I know all the 9 great gods of war in this world, and I know that you are not one of them. How can your strength be comparable to the god of war?" It was shocking. Dennis could not imagine that this man, who did not look very special, dressed ordinarily, and even had dirt on his clothes, actually had such scary fighting power. God of war. A hint of playfulness danced at the corner of his mouth. Would you believe if I tell you that the 9 great gods of war are my apprentices? Impossible? How is that possible? Why don't I know that the 9 great gods of war have a master? Dennis was shocked once again. Did the 9 great gods of war have a master? Because I asked them to keep it secret. Not many people know that they are my apprentices. Maybe only a few kings of war know. Jack laughed. I trained them, turned them into 9 sharp-dot swords, and let them gallop on the battlefield. Otherwise, the battle between us and the enemy would probably take another 1.5 years to end. Oh yes, there's only one person who is more powerful than the 9 great gods of war. His identity is extremely mysterious. It was said that after he had always worn a dragon-shaped mask after he became a general. The mask covers 70% of his face. There are only a handful of people who have seen his face, and he's the most mysterious, and also the strongest, person in Daxia, the supreme warrior. As Dennis spoke, he felt that his heartbeat accelerated, and he slowly stood up. He looked at the man in front of him carefully, and then said, "Could it be that you are Lord Supreme Warrior?" Jack laughed, his palm flipped, and a dragon-shaped mask appeared in his hand. After putting the mask on his face, only his left eye could be seen. The entire mask looked like an ancient dragon, and it covered most of his face. Lord Supreme Warrior. Looking at the mask, Dennis's voice trembled with fright. He thumped and knelt on the ground. "I should die. Please forgive me, Lord Supreme Warrior." The Supreme Warrior had always been the most mysterious existence in the army. Although a lot of people knew about his special mask, there were only very few who knew his face. Every time this dragon-shaped mask appeared in the battlefield, soldiers that were losing in the battle would instantly have the motivation to fight with confidence. It was said that as long as this mask appeared, signifying that the Supreme Warrior had joined the war, they were never defeated. The mask and the wearer had become the faith of all, warriors and their fighting soul. They planned to officially declare the identity of the Supreme Warrior as everyone wanted to, know what the Supreme Warrior looked like. However, it was unknown why only the 9 great gods of war was officially introduced, but not this legendary figure. At that point of time, Dennis was so frightened that his legs turned weak, with sweat dripping off his forehead. The Supreme Warrior was someone that no one could blaspheme. According to legend, the Supreme Warrior once made a joke, and it caused 2 pieces of the ruler's beard to be pulled down. If this was done by someone else, it would have been a capital crime. If I want to kill you, you would not be kneeling here now. Jack smiled indifferently and then said, "Remember, although you have left the battlefield, you must retain the dignity and the battle spirit of us as soldiers. Don't help a villain to do evil. Otherwise I would clean up the garbage for Daxia." Dennis wiped his sweat. "Thank you, Supreme Warrior, for not killing me. I understand. By the way, say nothing about my identity. I don't want to be disturbed and only want to stay by my wife's side. Do you understand?" Jack took off the mask and flipped his palm. It was as if it had disappeared into thin air. "Master Supreme Warrior, don't worry. I will keep it a secret, even if it costs me my life. I will not say a word," Dennis promised. "Get up. After we open the door, I am Jack. Do you understand?" Jack reminded him again. Inside the yard, everyone had been waiting, and all of them had doubts written on their faces. "Young Master Clark, what's going on? Why does Dennis have to talk to him alone? Is he still trying to persuade that rubbish Jack to divorce Miss Taylor?" One of the Clark family's bodyguards thought about it and could not help but speak out. "Maybe, but if Jack dares to resist, he should be crippled if not die. I want to see if Selina would rather stay with a cripple or change her mind." Ken sneered and looked at Selina, who was by his side. He had no idea why. The more he could not get Selina, the more he wanted to get her. He believed that he could make this proud woman bow and be submissive to him. Jack is just a stupid guy. Will they fight inside? Mr. Howard does not seem like a simple person. What should we do if he's killed? Fiona frowned and began to worry. This young man cannot judge very well sometimes. Even if they demolish the house, we can rent a house. After all, I still have a few $100,000 with me. "Mum, stop. This is the Taylor family's old mansion. They can't just demolish it. Apart from that, they don't even want to pay any compensation. How can that be accepted?" Selina frowned and felt a little worried. At this moment, the door slowly opened. Jack and Dennis walked out one after another. "How is everything? Should all of you move out? I don't want to hear any answers other than yes." Ken smiled coldly and said, "Young Master Clark, let's go." Dennis's face darkened. He walked in front of Ken and said in a low voice, "Hurry up and leave, if you don't want the Clark family to disappear from Eastfield." "What? What's happening?" Ken looked dazed. Was Dennis not a marshal? Why did he seem so afraid of Jack? Dan Jameson, the top fighter of the Clark family, persuaded him to not provoke Jack. Unexpectedly, this marshal was also afraid and asked him to not offend Jack. "Listen to me, otherwise it will be the catastrophe of your family." Dennis lowered his voice and reached at the side of Ken's ears. He whispered something extremely serious before walking outside. Ken was shocked. Dennis was a cream of the crop, and the power of his status sent chills down the spine of many, yet he was afraid of Jack. Could it be? Ken thought of a possible explanation. Jack had returned from the military. Was it possible that this man hid his identity and his true status was actually more respectable than Dennis? If that was the case, Jack would at least have the status of god of war. These people had such great achievements on the battlefield, no one dared to offend them. Ahem, I see that the house here is not a dilapidated house. Let's go. Ken coughed, turned around, and was about to leave with his people. Young master, are we leaving just like this? The Clark family's bodyguards were puzzled. They had no idea what Dennis said to Ken. Why are we not leaving? The quality of their house is not bad. It's sure that we have to leave. It was a misunderstanding previously. Ken smiled bitterly and explained embarrassingly. The people from the relevant departments were previously aggressive. Now that they heard these words, they were stunned. What did Jack and Dennis talk about inside? Wait, young Master Clark. It's not so good that you come and go as you please. However, Jack unexpectedly smiled indifferently at this moment and stopped the other party. Jack, what do you mean? I cannot change my mind and don't have the intention to build a retirement home now? Or you want to invite me for a meal and tea? Ken, who was already feeling shameful, turned, his head around and looked at Jack angrily. I'm afraid that you must be dreaming if you think that I would invite you for a meal. Jack chuckled and then said, Come here, kneel and apologize to me. Otherwise, how can you leave so easily? If I let you go so easily, what should we do if you are in a bad mood again and you would come over to demolish our house some other day? Kneel and apologize? Jack, you must be crazy. I am the eldest young master of the Clark family, the future master of the Clark family. Do you think it would be possible for me to apologize to you? Ken Clark laughed. So many people were looking at him, it was impossible for him to kneel and apologize. Otherwise, he would not have the dignity to leave his house in Eastfield later. Are you sure? Jack stepped forward, stared at him, and his facial expression was cold. At this moment, Ken also thought about what Dennis had told him before, and his facial expression instantly turned hard to look at. Did this Jack really have the ability to make the Clark family disappear? Ken became a little uncertain and hesitated. He believed that Dennis did not lie, and he dared not gamble anymore. If he lost the bet, he was not the only one who had to die. His family would also be affected. The Clark family finally got to where they are today through a very difficult path, and it cannot be ruined in his hands. Although Selina was beautiful, any man who had seen her would have intentions to court her. Was it worth it to give up the entire Clark family because of a woman? Fortunately, at this moment, Fiona pulled Jack backward and gave Jack a stern stare. Are you crazy? What nonsense are you talking about? He's the Clark family's young master. We cannot afford to offend him. After she finished speaking, she waved her hand at Ken. Young Master Clark, it must have been a misunderstanding due to a mistake. It's okay. You can all leave. After hearing this, Ken breathed a sigh of relief. It was better to walk away dirty than kneel and apologize. If this incident was spread out, would he not become a joke in Eastfield? Yes, Auntie is right. Clark nodded. He looked at Jack and added, Jack, I don't want to leave, but Auntie is asking me to, so don't blame me. After he finished speaking, Ken ran to his car and quickly drove away, as if he was afraid that Jack would chase after him. All the subordinates were stunned. They had a feeling that their young master was afraid of Jack. However, it was only natural that they leave the place after their young master left. Hence they left one after another. This guy flees faster than a rabbit. Jack smiled bitterly, looked at himself and said, Okay, I'll go. Take a bath and change my clothes before we continue chatting. That's strange. Weren't those people acting really rude? Why did they just leave like this? Also, what did your brother-in-law say to Mr. Howard in the house just now? Zena looked at Ben Taylor with a doubtful expression. Ben smiled bitterly. How would I know? It's so weird. Since Mr. Howard was specially invited by young Master Clark, he should be a powerful person. But why is such a powerful person afraid of my brother-in-law? I can feel the fear he felt. How is that possible? Fiona did not believe this and said, I'm guessing your brother-in-law knelt down in front of him behind closed doors and begged him to let us go. How is that possible? Brother-in-law is a man. Why would he kneel down to beg for mercy? Ben shook his head in disbelief. Why do I feel that brother-in-law is a little mysterious and is not as simple as he seems to be? He's simple. Who is he? He was a food delivery guy who served the military for 5 years and had just returned from the army. Fiona said, if he was any good, would we have such a miserable life in the past few years? I think Mr. Howard must have considered the fact that Jack knelt and pleaded as a veteran, so he asked young Master Clark to let go. I think Mum made a good guess. Zena could not help but nod while she stood on the other side. Think about it again. If this isn't the case, would someone honor Jack? Besides, why did Jack close the door? I remember that it was him who closed the door. To put it bluntly, he's afraid that we will see his shameful scene.